Hi everybody, and welcome to an introduction to Google Forms. In order to access Google Forms, it is required that you have an active Gmail account. In order to begin working with Forms, you must first log into your Gmail account. Once you've logged in, you're going to go ahead and access your Google Forms in one of two ways. You can either go to your Google Drive and access it from there, or go to forms.google.com. If this is the first time that you use Google Forms, under Recent Forms, you'll have nothing there. You have the option to create a form from a blank, or to use one of their preset templates. You might ask, what can I do with Google Forms? Well, it can be used for a variety of different reasons. To collect data, as a digital sign-in for an event over your classroom, to create quizzes, or even as a ticket out the door. In order to create a blank form, we're going to click on the plus sign here in the upper left-hand corner. We will then name our form. In my case, I'm going to call it Sample 1. Now you will notice that the title of the actual form has changed to match the title of the file. For this sample, we're going to create a few different questions with different question types. In order to add a question, you can click on the plus button here on the right hand side. Here there's already a question set up for us. It says in Title 1. I'm going to change the title of that question by clicking on it. What is your favorite food? By default, Google will read your question and try and determine what type of question it should be. Here are some of the ones that are available. Short answer, paragraph, multiple choice, checkbox, drop down, linear scale, date, time. So you have different formats for the different types of questions. We're going to make this a multiple choice question. And here's where you fill in the different options. If you want another option, all you do is hit the Enter key. Now, this will allow the user to select one of these answers here, and it will then go into our survey database. If you want to leave it open-ended and allow them to add their own answer that's not listed here, you can click the Add Other option. And when we preview this, we'll see that they have the option of these three, plus they can type in their own response. For each question, if you want to remove one of the choices, you can click on the X button on the right-hand side, and that will remove one of the options. You can also add an image to each of the questions. So in this case, I want to add an image for pizza. In order to add an image, all you do is click on your sample, click Add Image, and then you can upload from your computer by clicking here, or you can search, take a snapshot. If you have Google Drive, you can use your albums that are in Google Drive. The easiest way to do this is just to click Search and look for your term. Once you type it in, hit the magnifying glass, and there are your options. On the left over here, you can actually select from the different type of image. In this case, it's a photograph. If I want one with a face, Google will filter it out so that there's a face included in my pizza. If I want a straight photo, we have our photographs. If I want clip art, we have our more cartoony, more clip art style. And if we want line drawings, these are just black and white, much like our Black Line Masters. I'm going to leave it at photo. And I am going to use this image right here. Once I click the checkbox, click Select. And now this is part of my choices. I'm going to do this for each one really quickly. Okay, now I have not only the word, but I also have an image there as an option. Now we're going to preview the question. In order to preview your form, on the upper right hand side, you have an eyeball that says preview. If we click this, it will load our form so that we can see what it'll look like. And here we have our choices. I select one and then click submit. It shows that our sample 1 form has been submitted, and if I want to submit another response, I click this and it'll reload the form. Okay, I'm very quickly going to add a few more questions so we can look at what the responses look like. Okay, now that we've added a few questions, we want to look at some of the options you have within each question. If I click on a question, it activates it. Down here at the bottom right hand corner, it says required. If you want to make sure that every one of your questions is answered and that a user cannot submit it without answering your questions, click the required button. When the required button is on, they must answer the question. They cannot submit without completing these. Under each question, you also have the option to put a description. By clicking on the 3 dots in the corner, clicking description, please select your favorite. And you can do this for each one of your questions. At the bottom of each question, you have a button to duplicate a question, or if you don't need that question any longer, you can click the delete button. So I'm going to duplicate this question. Now we have 2 copies, but I don't need one of them, so I'm going to hit the delete. And now it's gone. Once you've completed your forms, you're going to want to get it to your audience, and there's a few ways to do that. Once you're done with your form, there's a button on the upper right hand corner that says send. If I click that send button, I have multiple options on how to get this form link to people who need to fill it out. I can email it to them and fill out their emails here, embed it on an actual website, but I find this is the most effective. If you click on the link, you get a link to this form. You can shorten it using a Google shortener, and you can send this to your students or whoever your audience is via email, text message, writing it on the board, or however you need to get it to them. If I click copy, it is now stored in memory, and I can paste it in an email or wherever I need to send it. There's a couple of ways that I like to do this. One is a website called URLcom, and this is a website shortener. If I paste the website right here and make it tiny, it'll create this link, tinyurl.com/y7, etc., etc. This is a little smaller than what Google did. The other method to get this to an audience is through a website called QR Stuff. QR, or quick response, is a code that allows you to attach a link or an object to a specific code that then can be read by a QR reader, or most of the iPads in the district. So if I paste the website right here, this QR code, if scanned, will take me back to my form. Once you've given out your form to a few people, you're going to want to see the responses. So if you click on your form, you have your questions on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, you have your responses. It'll show me here what my total number of responses has been, which is 7, and if I scroll down, I can see a summary of each question, with percentages broken down for each answer. If I hover over them, I can see hot dogs had 4 people vote with 57%, pie had 1, and pizza had 2. And I can see this breakdown for each question, and it's different depending on the question type. 4 people voted for carrots, 3 bell pepper. So at a glance, I can see what my data is without having to drill down or without having to do too much calculation. It's a quick, at-a-glance response. I can also see individual responses per question. That's number 1. 7 people responded, so I can see the responses for each of those 7 people. Now, if I want to manipulate this data, or if I'm doing a larger sampling, I would want to create an Excel sheet or a Google sheet to contain all the information that's coming in. To do that, from my response window, I would click right here where it says Create Spreadsheet. By default, it's set to Sample 1, which is the name of our file and the name of our form. If I already have a sheet I want to point it to, I can click Select Existing Spreadsheet. I'm going to leave this by default the way it is and click Create. Now Google will generate a Google Sheet with the title Sample 1 with the results for each of those entries. So everybody who inputted any data off of the link for my form will show up here in the spreadsheet. It is a live form. So if people are still responding to my form, I will see real-time responses on this sheet. And I will continue to see responses until I close my form. If I want to close my form and I don't want any more entries, all I have to do is click this little dot right here and change this to not accepting responses. One of the great things about Google Forms is that you can very quickly convert one of your existing forms into a quiz. All you have to do is load the form, come over to the settings. You have a tab here at the top that says Quizzes, and you'll click the slider button that says Make this a quiz. Now you have a few options underneath. Under Release Grade, immediately after submission, if you leave this on, the person taking the quiz will be able to see their responses at the end. And here at the bottom, we have the option to turn on and off what we want them to see at the end of the quiz after submission: the missed questions, the correct answers, and the point values. Once we click Save, this form is now ready to be assigned points for each question. Now notice I've added an entry for first and last name and class period. Now here are our questions. If I click on the question, you'll see right now it's assigned 0 points, so I need to click the answer key, and I need to select the correct answers for this question, which are the even numbers, 4, 6, 8. Now I also have the option to add feedback for the incorrect answers with text, a link to a website or a YouTube video, or add feedback for correct answers with text, a link, or a video. I need to assign points for this question. Currently it's worth 0 points. I'm going to set it for 10 points. And then I'll move on to the next question. Once I'm done, I'll click on the Send button and then send this out just like I would any other form and wait for my responses. Once I receive a few responses, I can see them just like I could any other form by clicking on the Responses tab. I can see a summary of each individual question, my total number of respondents, and at a glance, I can see where I might need to go back and reteach. And just like with other forms, I can click here on this View Responses in Sheet, and I'll be able to see the results in a spreadsheet with my timestamp, my first and last name of my student, the class period that they chose, and their score. I hope you enjoyed your overview of Google Forms. Please stay tuned. Coming soon will be implementation for classroom use.